Hey guys, I'm just going to do a tutorial for you on improving smoke effects in explosions by creating smoke trails using Tyflow. So this was a scene I did a few months ago. Tank's getting blown apart. Now, the main explosions are just basic Phoenix explosions, like default, but as you scrub through, if you have a look, now you'll see here these trails coming off, smoke trails. Now they are not part of the main explosion, which is here. All these smoke trails are generated using Tyflow. Probably see it a bit better on this one actually. Here you can see some big ones flying out here and the little ones in here. Alright, so those extra effects I'm going to show you how to do. Now, just to show you this, these chunks, these are actual geometry chunks of the tank exploding, and they do emit fire and smoke in the same way, but as geometry, not as particles. So yeah, because the motion blurs on, it's hard to see, but you see this trail right here? That's created from a Tyflow. So anyway, right, let's get into it. Right, so I've set up this this box and a sphere. It's actually a hemisphere, and I put it on the side of the building and created a default gasoline explosion. Sorry, no, just an explosion. It's not a gasoline explosion. So I basically put the sphere like that, click the button, and set up a ready-made explosion, just for the purposes of this tutorial, really. So you can see we've got, I don't know, say like a building, and there's an explosion coming outside of it, but there's no trails. There's nothing going on here. So we're going to do that with Tyflow, okay? All right, so the easiest way to start is with our hemisphere here. First of all, I'm gonna clone it. Okay, I'm gonna move it into this layer. Let's just turn this one off. Leave the box on for now. I'll just change the color as well. And I'm going to lower the hemisphere value, increase it, sorry, to say 0.8 for now. All right, now it's going to jump. Well, it's not going to jump, but it's sliced away. So if you want it to appear at the source, you want to move it back a bit. Okay, so all right. Now I'm going to make a Tyflow. Let's just zoom out a bit here. And I'm going to make a berth, and I'm going to lower the amount to, say, I'll start low with like 35 or something. I'll set it to large dots, and then I'm going to position them on our new hemisphere we created. So I'm going to pick that hemisphere, and I'm going to set it to volume so they berth inside it. If you turn it off, we can see them. We actually don't need it on. Alright, so they're being berthed, and they're going to create our trails. I'm going to lower the point at which they're berthed quite low, so they're all berthed pretty simultaneously, say over 6 frames. So boom, they're all there. Okay, well now we need them to do something, and for that we're going to use the speed up. Okay, and we're going to the direction we're going to set is icon center out, and the icon is going to be the sphere. Okay, Now at the moment they're set to a magnitude of 1. So they're flying away from this building, say, which is great. That's what we want them to do, okay? And I'm going to give them some gravity, so I'm going to chuck a force in. I'm going to set that to -1 for now. You can tweak all this later, obviously. So now they've completely, as they burst, they just dribble out, which is no good to us. And to overcome that, we need to give them a bit more speed, okay? So if we set this to 5, say. So if you imagine them being chunks, that's what they would do. You might want them to go a bit further and faster, so it's 10, to give them more spread, so to speak. And you might want them to go up a bit as well, in which case you might have to angle your sphere like so. It's all down to your own explosion, what you want it to do, basically, how you want it to react. Now the hemisphere value is pretty important because that will govern the amount of spread you get. If you have a look here, if I raise this to like 0.95, say, they're in a really tight spread. So just, and if you make it 0.6, they're going to fly out much wider. So you can control the spread with this value quite significantly. So let's leave it at 0.8 for a minute. Okay. Now, those particles are basically going to be our extra smoke trails in the simulation. So in order to get our Phoenix grid to read that, we need to make another source. So a fire source. Okay. And then we're going to add our Tyflow to it. And we're going to turn off the temperature because we just need them to be smoke. And also, we're not going to use surface force, we're going to use volume inject. So it literally just say yes when it asks to make it non-solid. So it injects smoke into the particles. So I'm just going to set that to 4 for now. Now you can keyframe that. Obviously, if you only want it to emit smoke for X amount of frames, just keyframe that to go to 0 where you need to, or I'm just going to leave it a constant 4 for this, just so as you can see what's going on. Alright, so another important aspect of this, if we look at the source here, we go down to the bottom, you'll see all of this is grayed out. PRT shape is particularly what we need, and custom PRT size as well we can play with later. But it's grayed out because the source Tyflow, is not enabling the particle interface. So Phoenix doesn't know it's there. So if we enable that, go back to the source, it's come to life here, okay? So the time base is absolute, so it's just reading off the time frame. And the PRT shape is the sphere is 1 voxel, alright? So that's going to be quite small, I'd imagine, but we'll leave it at that for now. I'm going to turn back on our Phoenix simulator. Now, when you create an explosion, it should automatically, in the output rollout, turn on the grid RGB, which is pretty important because you want to be able to color your smoke differently, how you need to, okay? So back in our second source here, we need to turn on RGB. Now, if we left it like that, we'd get green smoke, alright? So let's make it quite white for now, so we'll see it quite clearly in the GPU preview. And then I think we should be good to go. Now, we'll see what happens first, but if we just, let me just turn that off. Sorry, no, leave it on because I want to see the grid size. I want to see how far these particles fly in front of the explosion. That's not too bad, that's pretty good. But what we'll find probably is these particles won't emit smoke because they move too fast for the grid expansion. So you might need to alter the grid size to get the smoke trails to fly as far as you need them to for the shot. So anyway, right, let's run this again. I'm going to run it with the explosion on and with the trails, and we'll see what we get. Hopefully it won't take too long. So it's quite a small scene scale. Alright, now you can see the smoke trails being birthed. And as I said, the particles escaping the grid, look. It is expanding, but it just can't keep up with these. So the smoke's just dying, basically. So the way to fix that is really the best way I've found is just keep the grid expansion on, but just have it bigger to start with. So you can see the initial size here. Let's go back to frame 0. And that is the wrong axis. We want the x-axis. So yeah, expand it. Because the explosion's not going backwards, we can shift the grid forward a bit. Give it plenty more space. In fact, right up to the building itself. So that'll give these particles a lot more space to emit. Now, crucially, if you're doing this on a fairly big scale, you can find your grid size will get pretty massive pretty fast. And if you haven't got a lot of memory, Phoenix will struggle, and it'll often just stop the simulation because it runs out of memory. I mean, I've got 64 gigs. I think really you need 128 to get really big grids working well. So anyway, let's see what happens now. Now the RGB value, you can change it on the fly, but I'm going to change it on the fly to show you because this is what will get rendered, which is in here. So if we just make it say blue, you should see it start to change. So you could map that to have varying coloured smoke, but generally in an explosion it stays constant, right? So I would just leave it at white, to be honest, for now. So yeah, there you go. There's your trails being birthed. Obviously, when they hit the bottom of the grid, they've got nowhere to go. Again, it depends on your scene. You can have hitting the floor and like smoke puffs coming up, which is kind of what's happening here. Alright, so what we can do is let's turn off the actual explosion and run it again. So all it's going to do now is birth the trails, the smoke trails. And the pattern you want is literally down to this hemisphere size and the speed operator, the gravity. That's where you play with your smoke dissipation and how you want it to look. Alright. So the other thing you can do is literally let's duplicate this source. Okay. We'll duplicate everything. We'll duplicate the sphere. And I'm gonna make a new Tyflow, and I'm gonna copy that one over. And instead of birthing it on sphere 2, I'm going to birth it on sphere 3. to speed it along. Sphere, I can't say it. Sphere 3. Just change the colour, just make them yellow or something. Now, because they're coming out of pretty much the same place, why am I not seeing those? Sphere 3. Just change the colour of that as well so we can see what's going on. In fact, I'm going to move it slightly. Oh, there they are. I don't know why they weren't showing up. Let's just offset them slightly. You can see that it's basically a duplicate. Speed up. Let's make them slightly slower. And another good thing, another tip actually, is the variation in the speed. It can make quite a big difference. So you'll see them definitely change a lot and come out at different speeds, which is kind of cool actually. In fact, we can do that on both of them because variation. Let's go 65. So they're all your trails are going to be slightly offset and at different speeds. And for this hemisphere on this one, let's make them quite a tight spread. So you can see they're not spreading out as far as the first lot, the pink ones. And the other thing we're going to do is in our new sources change the colour. Let's make them pretty dark. Alright. And you'll also have to go back to the new Tyflow and enable the particle interface again. Don't forget to do that, else they just won't emit anything. So again, you can tweak. It's really personal preference how you tweak these emitters. Let's make them go right up. And that should give us 2 lots of smoke, one white, one black. A bit close, there we are. Actually, those secondary ones don't. Did I turn on the RGB? I did. That's strange. What did I forget to do? I know what I forgot to do. I forgot to add Tyflow. Right, add Tyflow 2 to that one. There we go. Right, now we should be in business. Rookie mistake. There we go. Black and white smoke mixed together. Now, these smoke colours are all governed inside the Phoenix Sim in the render settings. If we go into the volumetric options, we'll see smoke colour is RGB, so it's ignoring that completely. It's using the colour that you set in the emitter. Okay, even the original Phoenix source has its own RGB, which is that one, which is kind of a mid-grey for the explosion. Alright, so that won't change as long as you leave that at RGB. It'll read from the sources. So there you go. That's kind of how smoke trails work using particles. The other thing you might want to look at as well, let's just turn off the black ones for a minute, just go with the white trails, is to play with this PRT shape here. So if we go custom size and try it at 2, you should see the smoke looks a bit more full. Obviously it's a little bit low res, because just to keep the grid small, the simulation speed fast, but later on you want to increase your grid resolution to get a nice high quality smoke. But yeah, you can change that on the fly as well, which is quite amusing. So make it 6. So you can see it fattens the smoke right up, which could be useful for all sorts of different scenarios, you know. So yeah, let's just put that back to 2. And turn on our black smoke again. Turn on the original explosion. So you have, when you're ready to sim, obviously you have to do them all together. And there is nothing else. There's nothing to stop you actually using Tyflow again to emit for the actual explosion. You don't have to do it out of a like a preset, because at the moment it's using this hemisphere to emit off of the polygons of the hemisphere. So you could, let's just try it. Let's just do it. Let's go into Tyflow again. Make another copy. Paste. Right. So this one, the explosion. I'm going to turn off. The trails for a second. And in this one, I'm going to pick our original hemisphere that we used to create the explosion. So sphere 1. Speed from center out. Pick sphere 1 again. And let's just turn that off a second. Let's make them bright pink. Okay, so they're not. That's the same as the trails. So if we crank up the amount to say 500, maybe we'll just go 700 and do it in 2 frames. So it's pretty dense. And I also want to kill them off. So I don't want them to hang about, so as the fire keeps burning. We're going to time test. Actually, as well, let's just turn off the gravity, so as they just fly out. All right. We're going to kill them after, say, 5 frames. And I'm going to put that into a new event and delete them. Okay, so they disappear. And then we can use those in our original source. So we don't want the sphere anymore, we want our new Tyflow. And we've got the temperature on, we've got the smoke, we've got everything. But again, it's not going to read them because we haven't enabled particle interface. And let's go back to our original explosion. So at the moment our trails are off. Let's turn them off. Let's turn everything off. And we're just going to do an explosion using particles. We'll see what we get. It might be pretty chaotic. Sometimes it looks a bit bitty. But you can get all sorts of crazy different effects doing it this way. That's pretty insane. And you know what I forgot to do is turn this into volume inject. So it's still using a surface force, which you can use. It works fine. You can inject it or surface force it, but I find inject works better. Let's just delete those keyframes. Let's go 100 on the inject. I'm only going to key it. So actually, go to frame 4. Set it to 0. So it goes from 100 to 0 in 4 frames. We'll see what happens. So yeah, you get a pretty chaotic explosion, which is pretty cool. So that's how you can use particles to do explosions as well. You don't have to use the original sphere. So that's pretty cool actually. So now if we turn on our trails, let's go back, turn on that one, turn on that one. You don't actually need the spheres on, because Tyflow doesn't need them to emit the particles. It doesn't need them to be active to emit the particles. Alright, so let's see what we get. We might actually need to increase the speed of them to escape. Oh no, we're getting a few come out. Look, here we go. So yeah, you can go nuts from there. It's all basically down to the position of these spheres and the hemisphere shape, the speed in Tyflow. It all adds to the flavour. So if we take that one, clone it, and this time we're going to spin it that way a bit. And we can just add that. To our original one. So now we're going to get them coming out the sides as well. These pink ones here. You might, if you do that, then you're almost certainly going to have to increase the amount as well. So let's go with like 70. And yeah, just have fun with it, guys. That's basically it. You can experiment to your heart's content, and obviously the overall grid resolution will make a big difference to the quality of this smoke. It's quite chunky at the moment. So yeah, now we're getting trails coming out this way as well. Alright, so I really hope that helped, guys. Any questions, leave them in the comments, and I'll see what I can do to help. Thanks very much, guys. Bye.